Greetings, Ventures! This is Lorne, your guild advisor, and welcome to my analysis on the gorgeous ladies of Danmachi, launched with the secret game event in DanMemo. The art team did a good job designing them, Mikoto and Naza being among my favorite designs. Still sad about no Ryu unit, while this will be the Sword Princess's third straight summer event. Though I can't take it out on Eyes since she's one of my favorite characters. As you already know, the characters are separated among two different banners, the Ace Gacha with Eyes, Mikoto, and Demeter, and the Joker Gacha with Chloe, Riveria, and Naza. 2 adventurers and 1 assist unit each, with a guaranteed 4-star banner character on the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th multi-draws. These are not time limited, so when the general pool of characters is updated, you'll be able to get these characters from regular gacha banners and tickets down the line. But should you spend all your iris right away? I'll break down each unit so you can make an informed decision. Let's start with the adventurers. Beauty Eyes is a balanced type adventurer with an extremely high amount of agility, one of the highest values in the game, so she'll beat out the majority of magic type characters when it comes to attack speed. She also has a rather high magic stat for a balanced character. Her special arts is Dancing Luravaga, an AoE ultra water magic attack with a temporary magic boost and a 50% chance to sleep your enemies. As I always say, most of the time you'll want to be using the special arts of a physical or magic attacker for more damage in most situations. But if you're using a team that can knock off the 3 ailments nullifications that the commonly used Ariadne assist provides in war games, you might want to set your special arts to ailment to take advantage of the sleep. Since special arts take place in the very beginning of the turn, and any sleeps you land on your opponent will render them unable to do anything on that turn. It's definitely something to experiment with if your team uses a lot of ailments and can take off all the ailment nullifications from either Ceremonial Flame Hestia or Ariadne before a special arts is used. I myself, however, don't like leaving anything to chance and prefer to use my special arts for pure damage. Her first skill is Ravage Dance, an AoE super water magic attack with a temporary magic boost and ultra penetration rate. Naturally, this is the standard attack you will use when you need Eyes to go deal a good chunk of damage. Even though Eyes has a lower magic stat than pure magic attackers due to being a balanced unit, this attack still hits for a good deal since it has the super level of base power, along with having a temporary magic boost and a high chance to penetrate, ignoring half your opponent's defense and having a better chance at avoiding guard. Her second skill is Kaleidoscopic Dance, which removes AoE resistance and physical resistance debuffs from your units, excluding debuffs applied from assist skills. We're just coming off the amazing Argonaut event, and most of the units from it are commonly found in wargame teams. Eyes' second skill allows you to remove the AoE resist debuff that the commonly used Almana applies, and also the physical resistance debuff that the very popular Krotso applies. And naturally, this will be useful for any future bosses that could apply these debuffs. Her third skill is Alluring Steps, which applies 25% HP regen, physical resistance, and heal buffs to your allies for 5 turns. You'll be seeing a lot of these units with effects that last 5 turns, when 3 or 4 used to be the usual standard. The skill is rather good for fights that are damage heavy, especially physical damage, or fights in which you are trying to outlast your enemy through healing. The 25% HP regen activates at the end of each turn, giving back your units 25% of their max HP. Keep in mind, healing is lower in wargames. However, the additional healing buff at 25% increases the effectiveness of this healing as well. Not to mention, the 25% physical resistance will help in any physical damage heavy encounters, and right now, with units like Almana, Krotso, and Argo, physical damage is extremely popular in wargames. Just remember that planning for a certain type of damage in wargames could leave you vulnerable to the other side of the spectrum, in this case, magic. However, if you are using a lot of defensive type characters in wargames, such as Galmis or New Year's Tiona, the healing you get from Eyes will be quite effective when paired with your reduced damage intake. As for notable passive abilities, she has Agitation, which changes her counterattacks into a 75% chance to taunt the foe she counters. This can provide an excellent way to get rid of some of your opponent's ailment nullification charges in wargames, if not outright taunt your opponent, rendering unable to use any AoE skills the next turn, as long as Eyes is still alive. She also has a passive 35% fire resistance, so she'll be able to hold off a bit of the damage from the highly popular fire units in Krotso and Argo. And also, she has the Aqua Killer ability, allowing her to deal 50% more damage against Aqua type enemies. The new Eyes is definitely one of the more interesting characters in this summer event, as she is here to mostly play a utility role in taking off your debuffs and being a good source of healing for your party. Though, as I mentioned before, her Ravage Dance will do a decent amount of damage due to its super base power and temporary boost. Her kit definitely makes her a counter to teen sporting units like Elmina, Crotzo, and Argo, but it'll be interesting to see her lasting power when we get similarly strong units. Eyes has access to 2 different combination attacks depending on how high you ascend her, but Top Familia Executives is by far the stronger of the 2 and requires to be used with specific Loki Familia characters. If you need a good support unit that can gradually heal up your team or are struggling against teams using Elmina, Crotzo, and Argo, Eyes might be for you. Our second unit to go over sports my favorite art of all the characters, Kunoichi Mikoto. She is a water-based magic attacker and of course has the high magic stat to back it up. Her special arts is Counter Water Strike, an AoE ultra water attack with a temporary magic boost, and also gives all your units 1 instance of physical attack nullification, meaning you'll block the next physical attack done to your units excluding special arts. This is a very interesting special arts, due to the nullification component, and if you're needing a hard-hitting AoE water magic attack, Mikoto's will deal a good amount of damage and give your team some survivability against physical attackers. Remember, since special arts happen on the beginning of the turn, you'll be blocking the first physical attacks done to you on that turn. If you're in a pinch and are at critical health and not sure if a heal will make it in time, this could be your saving grace. Her first combat skill is Misty Moon, an AoE low water magic attack with a high uncounter rate and increases Mikoto's magic by 80% for 5 turns. Not too much to say here. In general, PvE fights like Record Buster or event bosses, you'll be using this move first to maximize your damage for the following turns. Her second combat skill is Verdant Gale, a single target high water magic attack with a temporary magic boost and ultra critical rate. This is your standard hard hitting single target attack that you'll be using in single target encounters like Record Buster or boss fights. It stands out particularly well because not too many moves have the temporary strength boost and ultra critical rate combined, meaning that this already hard hitting move will be dealing critical damage more often than not. Combined with a 30% crit character weapon, Mikoto will be dealing a good amount of single target damage. Her third skill is 7 Siege, an AoE super water magic attack with a high uncounter rate, and will also give Mikoto 1 instance of physical attack nullification. The no temporary boost on this skill hurts quite a bit, but super base power attacks will still hit quite hard. Naturally, the guaranteed physical attack nullification on Mikoto is the highlight of this skill and will keep her alive for a long time in any physical damage based fights. As for notable passives, Bravery will make any of her counters heal herself for 50% of the damage. This amount is boosted by a good bit because her second passive increases the damage of her counters by 50%. Like Eyes, she has 35% fire resistance cut against any fire type damage, and she also has the Aqua Killer ability. As for combination attacks, she only has access to the common magic attacking one, Magic Blast. Mikoto seems to be a good all-around water magic attacker who will do quite well in single target fights due to her magic buff and hard-hitting second skill. However, if you have another character that has a single target special arts, I'd definitely consider using a special arts charges on that, since the single target one will deal more damage than Mikoto's AoE special arts in most cases. As for war games, her third skill will do a good amount of damage, especially if you have ways to boost her water attack damage, like with the new Reveria, which I'll be touching up on next. Another unit you could pair her with is Longing Bride Lily, who supports a water attack damage buff as well. Assists that work well with Mikoto include Pure Bride Seer for the water resist debuff and water attack buff, and of course the new free event Freya, which increases water attack damage. And remember, the self-nullification on the third skill will make her an annoyance to physical teams and make her survive for a long time in battles that are physical damage heavy. Her healing counterattacks help in that regard as well. And as I said earlier, the next unit to go over is the mature and gorgeous Regina Reveria. She is another water magic attacker with a very high magic of 1876 and max limit break and ascension. Her special arts is Flowing Currency, a single target ultra water magic attack that gains an additional 60% damage for each magic buff applied to her. There can be a maximum of 2 magic buffs on Reveria, one from an adventurer and one from an assist, meaning a maximum of a 120% damage boost on her special arts. She can already buff her own magic, so you just need a magic assist like Wedding Wish Hestia or Bega Queen Freya to make sure special arts always does its maximum damage. Naturally, if you're doing a single target fight, this is definitely the character you want to be using the special arts charges, especially if the opponent is weak to magic or water. Her first combat skill is Water Cloak, a single target low water magic attack that also grants a 40% magic and water attack damage buff to all allies for 3 turns. This is the first skill you want to use on Reveria most of the time to maximize the damage of your characters in Record Buster and other single target boss fights. Her second skill is Whelming Water, a single target high water magic attack with a high penetration rate and also removes strength buffs from the target, excluding assist skills. This is an excellent utility move with a good chance of penetration for some extra damage, when its main purpose is to remove a deadly strength buff from the enemy. Ravis from Record Buster immediately comes to mind, as well as any bosses that can buff their own strength. Take note that since Reveria is a magic unit, this attack will inherently happen near the end of the turn, so you might get hit by a few strength buffed attacks before she's able to remove it. Pay attention to what turn the enemy uses a strength buff to plan ahead. Her third skill is Swelling Wave, a single target super water magic attack with a high unguard rate, and also causes your opponent to take 20% more damage from single target attacks for 3 turns. This is her strongest skill, which also has a great chance to be unguarded, so you don't have to worry about your enemy reducing your damage in half when they guard. The single target resist debuff is excellent for single target fights, allowing your units to all do more damage with their single target moves. As for her passives, her Will of Water will add a water element to her counterattacks, and she also deals 50% more damage on her counters. Like most water units, she has a 35% fire resistance and a Aqua Killer ability. As for combination attacks, she has access to Magic Blast and Top Familia Executives. Reveria is a single target water attacking monster who has an excellent utility in being able to remove strength buffs. As I said before, keep in mind to plan out the strength buff removal, as she is a magic unit and will attack towards the end of the turn, typically after physical attacks, which units with strength buffs obviously use. As I mentioned earlier, you'll want to use magic based assist on her and have assists like the new Freya or Purebride Seer to help increase the water damage. As for units that pair well with her, Offshore Elf Lafia is a single target water magic attacker and synergizes quite well, but she may be hard to get if you don't already have her, as she's a time limited character from last year's summer event. With any luck, they'll rerun the event sometime during or after this one, as they did a similar thing for the 2017 summer event, which Japan had a year before the game launched globally. Moving on to the last adventure on the gacha, Caddy Chloe. Unlike the other units, she is of the light element and a physical attacker. She sports a very high strength of 1907 at max limit break and max ascension, but has a rather mediocre endurance of 556. Her special arts is Grand Showdown, an AoE ultra light physical attack with a temporary strength boost, and also reduces light resistance by 50% for 1 turn, the turn it's used, unless you have some way to extend the debuff, like by using Roaring Gale Ryu's Oppression, which will add an additional turn to debuffs applied to your opponents. This is an extremely good special arts to use, especially if you have a light-based physical team to take advantage of the light resistance debuff. Her first combat skill is Draw Card, an AoE low light physical attack that increases her strength by 80% for 5 turns. For AoE boss fights, you'll definitely want to be using this attack first, so all her next attacks deal a great more damage. As for war games, it depends on your team composition, since teams that still use Adventurer Artemis will opt to use Artemis' strength buff to support all the other characters in the party, leaving not much of a point for Chloe to use this skill to buff herself. Her second skill is Cheating Hands, a single target highlight physical attack with a temporary strength boost and ultra unguard rate. This is a rather hard hitting single target attack that'll be good for single target encounters, especially when combined with her 80% strength buff. The ultra unguard rate makes it so your enemy is less likely to guard the attack. Her third skill is Flash Trick, an AoE fast mid-light physical attack which also has a 50% chance to put 1 instance of physical attack nullification on your party members. This third skill is the most interesting, as it's most definitely meant to be used in response to physical damage encounters or physical teams in wargames. This move won't do too much damage without a buff, but in theory it works great against physical-oriented fights. Though, if for some reason we get a sudden burst of insanely good magic units, Chloe suddenly loses value in wargames, though Krotso, Argo, and Almina seem like a powerhouse trio that should stay for a while. Her notable passives include Bravery, like Mikoto. She'll heal 50% of the damage she inflicts with her counterattacks, but she does not get boosted counter damage. She has 35% Dark Resistance, a common trait among light characters. Upon guarding attacks, Chloe reduces that damage by an additional 30%, and she possesses the Aqua Killer ability. Chloe has access to the Pound combination attack, which most other physical attackers who can hear Ascend can also use. Chloe overall seems like a decent light physical attacker, and can deal a good amount of single target light physical damage, which we really don't have too many characters for. She'll work really well with AoE light physical attackers like Artemis, who can buff strength and counter rate, the counter rate being the highlight as it will allow Chloe to counter more often and heal herself. Roaring Gale Ryu is another light unit that comes to mind due to her oppression, which can extend the light resistance debuff on Chloe's special arts. And Toka, from the Data Live event, can also support the damage in Chloe's third skill with her light resistance debuff while also being a hard-hitting attacker herself. Handmaid Elf Aina is a good assist to use with Chloe in the party as she reduces enemy light resistance and increases your light attack damage. Now for the assist characters. First up we have Colonel Demeter, who has a very high magic stat of 642 at max limit break. You want to equip her to a unit that benefits from magic stats, like a magic attacker. Her assist skill, Harvest Swimsuit at level 60, reduces enemy critical rate and magic resistance by 15% and increases the critical rate of the equipped unit by 8%. At max limit break, these values become a 20% crit rate and magic resist reduction and a 10% critical rate buff. Demeter is pretty self-explanatory. She is pretty much a must-have unit for magic teams who currently lack an assist that can reduce magic resistance and therefore increase the damage output of your magic teams. The critical rate reduction also helps quite a bit, as that lowers your enemy's chance to critically strike you and deal a great deal of extra damage. The crit rate buff for the equipped unit is a nice bonus for someone like a magic attacker to get more chances of getting a critical strike of its own. If you already have Golden Wheat Demeter at plus 5, she lowers enemy magic resistance by 15% and guard rate by 10%, so this new Demeter actually trumps her by 5% in regards to magic resistance reduction, and in this case, the 20% crit rate reduction is probably better than the 10% guard rate reduction. But if you already have Golden Wheat Demeter at plus 5, it's a tough pill to swallow to commit a lot of Iris to get a slight upgrade. The second assist character and final character of the banners is Cyan Naza, another magic-based assist with a very high magic stat of 636 at max limit break. At level 60, her assist skill, Cyan Drop, will apply 15% HP regen and healing buff, and an 8% counter rate buff to all allies. At max limit break, these values become a 20% HP regen and healing buff, and a 10% counter rate buff. Naza is a very good unit to use if you're struggling with staying alive in fights and your healer isn't doing enough. The HP regen applies at the end of turns, and can even stack with adventure HP regen buffs, like the one from the new Beauty Eyes. Not to mention, the healing buff will also increase the effectiveness of your healer's heals if you choose to use one. Some may even just use Naza as the main source of healing and not opt to run a healer in their teams after using a good amount of defensive buffs and debuffs. The counter rate buff is also a nice bonus that can help the new Kunoichi Mikoto, for example, as she is able to counter more often and heal herself with her counter ability. All in all, Naza is a good HP regen assist if you are lacking one and works very well on a magic team due to the high magic stat. All the secret game units have gorgeous art that you may be tempted to roll for alone, but I hope I was able to help you understand them a little more so you can make an educated decision when it comes to spending your Iris to roll on these banners if you care about optimizing your effectiveness. Though, feel free to draw for your favorite character if you're more casual. Trust me, it's probably more fun that way. And do keep in mind, we are still getting new characters for each episode premiere of Season 2, with Hyacinthus being the latest one coming the Friday this video is published. And there are a couple of Season 2 characters I'm definitely holding more Iris for. Good luck on your rolls and enjoy the event with the lovely ladies of DanMachi. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. To keep updated, follow my Twitter and join my Discord, and as always, continue enjoying your time venturing in Rario and the dungeon. This is Lorne, your guild advisor, signing out.